My sister let me die. That heartless woman. And look, I get her side. I've apologized multiple times, admitted my mistake, did everything to make things go back to how they were before. But she took it to heart. Decided she'd rather see me dead than forgive me. It's all my brother-in-law's fault. Ridiculous. After everything that happened, I come out looking like the bad guy. I'm the one who lost everything. I'm the one dying here. And her? She's in Minneapolis with her perfect life, new husband, 2 kids, fancy restaurant. While I need a kidney to survive and she just says no. 6 months. That's what the doctors gave me without a transplant. And Riley is a perfect match. Only viable donor in the family. She knows it. Came all the way to Stillwater, got tested, confirmed it. And then she looked me in the eyes in that hospital and said she'd rather watch me die. In front of our parents. In front of the doctors. Like I was some kind of monster. My name is Ivy Cox. I'm 34 years old. My kidneys are failing and my older sister Riley is the only person who can save me. And she chose not to. Because of something that happened 6 years ago. Something that, yes, was my mistake, but something he started. Let me tell you how this all began. Because the version Riley tells? That's not the whole story. 6 years ago, I came back to Stillwater from Florida. I'd lived there for 10 years since I was 18. Came back because my relationship ended. Badly. My ex broke up with me out of nowhere, left me with nothing, and I had to move back in with my parents, Briar and Everett. 30-something years old living with my parents again. Public humiliation. I became the family joke. Cousins making comments at gatherings. Aunts and uncles asking when I'd get my life together. Neighbors looking at me with pity when I walked by. Everyone knew Ivy Cox had come home a failure. Riley at the time had been married to Jonah for about 3 years. They seemed happy. Nice house, stable careers. She worked as an administrative assistant at a medical clinic. He was a logistics supervisor at a local distribution company. Simple but stable life. Perfect life for a perfect couple. I was broke, unemployed, depressed. And Riley, to give her credit where it's due, helped me. Took me in. Said family is family and we should be closer since we were never that close growing up. She even asked Jonah to help me get a job. He did. Position as inventory coordinator at the distribution company, in his department. I was grateful. Genuinely grateful. Started working, started going to their house for dinners. Riley insisted. Said she wanted to include me, make me feel like part of the family again. And it was at those dinners that I noticed. The way Jonah looked at me. The way he lit up when I walked into the room. The way he laughed at my jokes in a way he didn't laugh at hers. It wasn't just me imagining it. I felt it. But I didn't do anything. At first, we worked together, so we talked. A lot. About work, about life, about everything. He complained that Riley had changed after the marriage. That she was more focused on saving money and making long-term plans than living in the moment. That she'd gotten boring. His word, not mine. And I listened. Because he was my supervisor, my brother-in-law, and I was trying to rebuild my life. I had no ulterior motives. Not yet, until one day, after closing inventory that ran late, we went for a drink. Just the 2 of us. He said he needed to vent. That his marriage was difficult. That he felt alone even though he was married. That he missed connection. I said what anyone would say. That he should talk to Riley. That marriage takes work. That they should try therapy. He laughed. Said Riley wouldn't want to. That she'd say everything was fine. That he was overreacting. And then he looked at me in a way that made me feel truly seen for the first time in months. And I looked back. Nothing happened that night. But something changed. A line was crossed. Invisible but crossed. We started staying late at the distribution center. Working on inventory together. After a while, he started showing up at my parents' house when Riley wasn't there. Said he'd left something there from a previous visit. He'd stay. We'd talk. For hours. My parents loved him. Briar especially. Always commenting on how attentive he was. What a good brother-in-law. How lucky Riley was, and I started thinking she is lucky. Too lucky. Riley always had everything. Our parents' attention when it mattered, the better car when we turned 16, forgiveness when she came home late. Me, I got punished for everything. Always second place, always the other daughter, and now she had him. Jonah, handsome, hardworking, attentive, who clearly wasn't happy with her, who clearly connected with me in a way he didn't connect with her. Why couldn't I have that? Why did she always get everything? If you've ever felt like second place your whole life, you'll understand what comes next. Comment if you've ever wanted something that belonged to someone else just because you felt you deserved it more. Hit subscribe because this story only gets worse from here. The first kiss happened 3 weeks after that drink. 3 weeks of late nights at the warehouse. 3 weeks of him showing up at my parents' place more and more often. 3 weeks of looks that lasted too long and conversations that got too personal. We were alone in the inventory room. Friday night, everyone else had gone home. He was helping me count stock for a shipment that went out Monday morning. Riley thought he was working late. She always believed him when he said he was working late. He made a joke about something. I don't even remember what. But I laughed. And when I looked up, he was closer than he'd been before. Close enough that I could smell his cologne. Close enough to see the way his eyes dropped to my lips. I should have stepped back. I should have made an excuse and left. I should have remembered that this man was married to my sister, the woman who'd taken me in when I had nowhere else to go. But I didn't do any of that. Instead, I stayed exactly where I was. And when he leaned in, I let him kiss me. It was brief. Maybe 5 seconds. But it was enough to blow up everything. When we pulled apart, neither of us said anything. He just looked at me with this expression. Half guilt, half want. And I probably looked the same way. Then he left. Grabbed his jacket and walked out without a word. And I stood there in that inventory room thinking about what I'd just done. What we'd just done, I expected him to avoid me after that. Maybe transfer me to a different department. Maybe report himself to HR. Something. But Monday morning, he showed up at my station with coffee. My favorite order. Caramel macchiato with extra foam. I'd mentioned it once in passing. He didn't say anything about the kiss. Just handed me the coffee and asked how my weekend was. Like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. That's when I knew. This wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to pull back. And if I'm being honest with myself now, lying here hooked up to dialysis machines with my body shutting down, I didn't want him to. The second kiss happened 3 days later. This time in his car. We'd gone to lunch together. Just the two of us. Started becoming a regular thing. He'd always have some excuse. We needed to discuss department logistics. We needed to coordinate schedules. We needed to review vendor contracts. Riley never questioned it. Why would she? He was helping her little sister get established at work. Being a good brother-in-law. That's what she saw. That's what she wanted to see. But in that car, parked behind a strip mall 20 minutes from the distribution center, he kissed me again. And this time it wasn't brief. This time his hands were in my hair. This time I kissed him back like I meant it, because I did mean it. That's the part I hate admitting. I wanted him. Not just because he was Riley's, though that was part of it, if I'm being completely honest. But also because he made me feel special, important. Like I wasn't just the family screw-up who'd come crawling home from Florida with nothing to show for 10 years away. When we finally pulled apart, he said something I'll never forget. Not because it was romantic or beautiful, but because it was the first time he verbalized what we were doing. He said we needed to be careful. That Riley couldn't know. That this had to stay between us. Not that it was wrong. Not that we should stop. Just that we had to hide it, and I agreed. Because I wanted to keep him. And the only way to keep him was to share him. That afternoon, I went to Riley and Jonah's house for dinner. Sat across from my sister at their dining room table. Watched her serve the pot roast she'd spent hours making. Listened to her talk about her day at the clinic. smiled when she said how happy she was that Jonah and I were getting along so well at work. And the whole time, I could still taste him on my lips. The affair lasted 8 months. 8 months of sneaking around. 8 months of lies. 8 months of me being the kind of person I never thought I'd become. We had a system. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, Riley worked late at the clinic doing billing. Those were our days. Sometimes we'd go to a motel outside of town. One of those places that rents rooms by the hour and doesn't ask questions. Other times we'd go to my parents' house when they were out. Briar and Everett had their standing Wednesday dinner date and Thursday bowling league. The house would be empty. But the worst times? The times I can barely think about now? We went to Riley's house. To the home she'd built with him. To their bedroom. To their bed. The first time Jonah suggested it, I hesitated. Even for me, even with everything I was already doing, that felt like crossing a different kind of line. But he said Riley never got home before 7. We had hours. And something about the danger of it, the wrongness of it, made it more exciting. So I did it. Multiple times. I'd show up at their house in the afternoon. Let myself in with the spare key Riley had given me in case of emergencies. Walk through rooms she'd decorated. Past photos of her and Jonah on their wedding day. Up the stairs to their bedroom, and I'd sleep with her husband in her bed. Then I'd fix the sheets exactly how she made them. Make sure everything looked untouched. And I'd leave before she got home from work. Once I miscalculated. Riley came home early. I was in the bathroom when I heard the front door open. Heard her voice calling out asking if anyone was home. Jonah and I had maybe 10 seconds. He went downstairs to intercept her. Said he'd come home early to surprise her. I grabbed my things and slipped out the back door. That night at dinner, she told our parents about how sweet Jonah was. Coming home early to make her favorite dinner. How lucky she was to have a husband like that. I smiled and agreed. Said she really did have a great marriage. Said she should never take him for granted. My mother Briar looked at me and said maybe I'd find someone like Jonah someday. Someone loyal and devoted. Riley reached over and squeezed my hand. Said I would. That I deserved to be happy. I squeezed back and said thank you. And I meant it. Because in my twisted logic I was happy. I had what I wanted. I had him. But I also had guilt. Not enough to stop. But enough to eat at me late at night when I couldn't sleep. Enough to make me avoid looking at Riley too directly. Enough to make me snap at my parents when they praised Jonah too much. The guilt got worse when Riley started confiding in me about her marriage. Started telling me things were feeling off. That Jonah was distant. That he was always tired. That their physical relationship had dropped off completely. She asked me if I thought he might be having an affair. If I'd noticed anything at work. If he'd mentioned any women. I looked my sister in the eyes and lied. Said no. Said he never mentioned anything like that. Said she was probably just overthinking things. That all marriages go through rough patches. That she should try talking to him. She believed me. Because why wouldn't she? I was her sister. We were finally getting close after years of distance. She trusted me, and I used that trust to keep sleeping with her husband for 4 more months. And the whole time I could still taste him on my lips. I thought that was the worst I could become. I had no idea how much further I'd fall. Riley found out on a Saturday morning. We'd been sloppy. I'd been sloppy. The night before, Jonah and I had been at her house again. Riley was supposed to be at some work event until late. Some clinic anniversary party. But she came home early. Said she had a headache and just wanted to go to bed. We'd already left by then. But I'd forgotten my earring. One of those cheap hoop earrings from Target. Left it on their bedroom floor by accident. She found it when she was vacuuming. Called Jonah while I was at my parents' house. Asked him whose earring it was. He panicked. Told her it must be from one of her friends who'd visited. But Riley knew. She knew none of her friends wore earrings like that. She kept pressing. And eventually he broke. Told her everything. The affair. The 8 months, all of it. But here's the part that still pisses me off. He told her it was mostly my fault. That I'd pursued him. That he'd tried to stop it, but I kept pushing. That he was weak and I took advantage. Riley called me 30 minutes later. Asked me to come over. Said it was important. I knew from her voice something was wrong. But I didn't know she knew. Not until I walked in and saw her face. She'd been crying. Eyes red and swollen. But she wasn't crying anymore. She was just cold. Scary cold. She looked at me and asked if it was true. If I'd been sleeping with Jonah, I could have lied. Should have lied. But something about the way she looked at me made lying impossible. So I told the truth. Said yes. She asked how long. I said 8 months. She asked where. I stayed quiet. She asked again. Louder. Where, Ivy? I told her. Motels, my parents' house, and here, in your house. In your bed. That's when she lost it. Started screaming. Calling me every name you can imagine. Some I'd never heard her use before. Asked how I could do this to her. After everything she'd done for me. After she took me in when I had nothing. I had no good answer. Because there wasn't one. So I just stood there and took it. Let her scream until her voice went hoarse. Then she told me to get out. Said she never wanted to see me again. That I was dead to her. That she was filing for divorce and I could have him because clearly I wanted him so badly. I left. Went back to my parents' house. They weren't home yet. I sat in my old bedroom and waited for the fallout. Jonah showed up an hour later. Said Riley had thrown him out. That we could be together now. That maybe this was meant to happen. And you know what I felt in that moment? When I finally had him all to myself? Not happiness. Not relief. Nothing. Just emptiness. Because getting him this way, through Riley's pain and humiliation, it wasn't the victory I'd imagined. But I did it anyway. Let him move in. Started dating him openly. Posted photos online. Made our relationship public. Because I'd already destroyed everything. Might as well commit. 3 months later, Riley told our parents. They already knew something had happened. But hearing the details, hearing that I'd been sleeping with Jonah and Riley in Jonah's house, that changed things. My mother looked at me like she didn't know me. My father didn't say anything at all. Just walked out of the room. Riley moved to Minneapolis 2 weeks after the divorce was final. Didn't tell any of us where exactly. Just said she was leaving and never coming back. Said she was going no contact with me, and anyone who stayed in touch with me would be cut off too. My parents had to choose. And they chose both of us. Tried to stay neutral. Which really meant they chose me. Because I was the one who stayed. The one who needed them. The one who was clearly falling apart. Jonah and I got married 2 years after the divorce. Small ceremony. Just my parents, a few friends, and his brother who flew in from Texas. Riley obviously wasn't invited. Didn't even know about it until my mother sent her a photo, Riley's response. Blocked my mother's number. Blocked everyone in the family. Complete no contact. My mother cried about it for weeks. Said she'd lost her daughter. That I'd destroyed our family. I felt bad about that. I did. But I also felt like maybe Riley was being dramatic. It had been 2 years. She should have moved on by now. Found someone new. Gotten over it. Turns out she had moved on. We just didn't know it yet. 4 years after she left Stillwater, we found out through a mutual acquaintance that Riley was engaged. To some chef in Minneapolis named Silas. That she was happy. That she'd built a whole new life. And I felt jealous. Which was insane because I had Jonah. I'd won. But somehow knowing she was happy without us, without me, without even acknowledging our existence, it bothered me. Made me realize that maybe I hadn't won at all. Especially because by then my marriage to Jonah was falling apart. Turns out the man who cheats with you will absolutely cheat on you too. Shocker. I started noticing the signs 2 years into our marriage. The same signs Riley probably noticed. Him working late more often. Being distant. His phone always face down. Showering as soon as he got home, I confronted him. Multiple times. He denied it. Every time, said I was being paranoid. that I was projecting because of how our relationship started. That he'd never do that to me, but I knew. Because I'd been the other woman. I knew exactly what a fair behavior looked like. So I did what Riley probably should have done from the start. I hired a private investigator. Took her 3 weeks to get proof. Photos of Jonah with not one but 2 different women. Both married. Both younger than me. One of them worked at the distribution center. In my old department, the irony wasn't lost on me. He'd found himself new versions of what I'd been. The exciting other woman. The one who made him feel alive. The one who wasn't boring domestic life. I filed for divorce immediately. No crying, no begging. No trying to work it out. Just called a lawyer and started the process. Because I wasn't Riley, I wasn't going to forgive this. Jonah fought it. Said I was overreacting. That those women meant nothing. That what we had was special because we'd fought so hard to be together. That we couldn't throw it away over a mistake. A mistake. Singular. Like it was one time. One lapse in judgment. Not months of deliberate deception with multiple women. I told him to get out. He did. Found himself an apartment in the next town over. And I got the house in the divorce. Along with half of everything else. Small victories. But here's where karma really came through. 6 months after the divorce was final, I started feeling sick. Tired all the time. Nauseous. Thought maybe it was depression. The stress of everything that had happened. Went to the doctor. They ran tests. Found protein in my urine. High creatinine levels. More tests. More specialists. Eventually a diagnosis. Chronic kidney disease. Stage 4. Moving toward stage 5. The doctor asked if I had family history of kidney disease. I said no. He asked about my lifestyle. Diet, exercise, stress levels. All fine. Nothing that explained it. Sometimes he said these things just happen. Bad luck. Genetics, unknown causes. I sat in that doctor's office and thought about Riley, about what I'd done to her, about karma, about cosmic justice. And I wondered if maybe this was payment for what I'd taken from her. Do you believe in karma? In the universe balancing things out? Leave a like if you think sometimes we get exactly what we deserve, because what happened next made me a believer. The disease progressed fast. Stage 4 to stage 5 in 8 months. My kidneys were functioning at 15%. Then 10. Then 5. The doctor said I'd need dialysis soon. And after that, a transplant. Without it, maybe a year. I couldn't work anymore. Too tired. Too sick. Moved back in with my parents for the 3rd time in my life. 33 years old. Divorced again. Dying slowly in my childhood bedroom. My mother tried to be supportive. Made me special meals for my renal diet, drove me to appointments, but I could see it in her face. The disappointment, the exhaustion. She'd already lost one daughter to distance. Now she was losing the other one to kidney failure. My father still didn't talk much, just existed in the same house. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me like he was trying to figure out where things went wrong. When exactly I became this person, I started dialysis 4 months after the diagnosis. 3 times a week. 4 hours each session. Hooked up to a machine that did what my kidneys couldn't anymore. It kept me alive, but it didn't make me feel alive. Just existing. Waiting. The doctors started talking about transplant options. Living donor would be best. Family member would be ideal. My parents got tested. Neither was a match. Extended family either wasn't compatible or refused to test. Can't say I blamed them. I wasn't exactly the favorite family member. That's when my mother said it. The thing we'd all been thinking but nobody wanted to voice. What about Riley? I laughed. Bitter, hollow laugh. Said Riley would rather watch me die. My mother said we didn't know that. That Riley was a good person. That family is family. That surely she'd want to help save my life. I told her to call Riley then. See what she says. My mother tried. Riley didn't answer. Tried again. Blocked number. Tried from my father's phone. Also blocked. Tried emailing. No response. Riley had made her position clear 6 years ago. I was dead to her. And apparently, she meant it literally. My condition worsened. Started having complications. Fluid in my lungs. Heart issues. Blood pressure through the roof. The doctors said I needed to get on the transplant list immediately. Average wait time? 3 to 5 years. I probably had one. That's when my mother made a decision. She tracked down Riley through social media. Found out she was married to that chef Silas. Had 2 sons. Worked at his restaurant. Living her best life in Minneapolis while I was dying in Stillwater. My mother sent her a message. Explained everything. My condition. The prognosis. The desperate need for a living donor. Begged her to at least get tested. Said I'd changed. That I was sorry. That surely she wouldn't let her sister die over something that happened years ago. Riley read it. We could see she'd read it. But she didn't respond. For 3 weeks, nothing. Then finally, a message. Short. Cold. She'd think about it. Riley agreed to get tested. I couldn't believe it. After 6 years of complete silence, she was actually considering saving my life. My mother cried when she got the message. Said she knew Riley would come through. That blood is thicker than water. That family forgives. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think maybe Riley had moved past what I'd done. That time in her new life had healed those wounds enough for her to be the bigger person. But part of me knew better. Knew Riley wasn't doing this out of forgiveness. She was doing it for our parents. Or maybe for herself. To prove something. I didn't care why. I just needed her kidney. The testing process took 2 weeks. Blood work, tissue typing, cross-matching, medical history, psychological evaluation. All of it to determine if she was compatible, if she could physically donate, if she was mentally prepared for what it meant. And she was. Perfect match. Doctor said it was rare to see compatibility this good outside of twins. Said it was almost like fate. I didn't believe in fate. But I believed in desperation. And I was desperate. Riley agreed to a video call. First time seeing her face in 6 years. She looked different. Older, obviously, but also happier. More confident. Like she'd shed some weight she'd been carrying around. The weight of me and Jonah and our betrayal. The call was awkward. Our parents there trying to facilitate, trying to pretend we were a normal family having a normal conversation about a kidney transplant. But we weren't normal. We were broken. And sitting there looking at Riley through that screen, I realized just how much I'd broken us. She didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just asked questions. About my health. About the transplant process. About recovery time. Clinical questions. Like she was researching a medical procedure not saving her sister's life. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said she'd come to Stillwater. Would meet with the transplant team. Would hear them out. But she hadn't decided yet if she'd go through with it. She wanted to see me first. Wanted to have a conversation. Just the 2 of us, I agreed. What choice did I have? She held all the cards. My life was literally in her hands. So I said yes. Come to Stillwater. We'll talk. Whatever you need. She said she'd be there in 2 weeks. Had to arrange childcare for her sons. Had to talk to her husband. Had to prepare herself for seeing me again after all this time. I understood. Or I told her I understood. Really, I just wanted her to hurry up. Because every day I waited was a day my kidneys failed a little bit more. What I didn't know? Riley was already making a decision that would change everything. She came to Stillwater on a Thursday. Flew in alone. Didn't stay with our parents. Got a hotel room. Made it clear this wasn't a family reunion. This was business. The business of deciding whether I lived or died. We met at the hospital. Neutral territory. Transplant coordinator there as mediator. My parents in the waiting room. Just me and Riley and the doctor in that consultation room. She looked at me for a long time before saying anything. Really looked. At my pale skin. My thinning hair. The port in my chest for dialysis. The exhaustion in my eyes. All the physical evidence of what kidney failure does to a body. Then she spoke. Asked me why she should save me. Point blank. No preamble. Just that direct question. Why should I give you my kidney after what you did? I didn't have a good answer. Because there wasn't one. So I said the truth. Because I'm dying. Because you're the only one who can save me. Because we're sisters, she laughed at that. Said we stopped being sisters the day I slept with her husband in her bed. That family means loyalty and trust, and I'd destroyed both. That she'd spent 6 years building a life without me and she was happy. Why would she risk her health, her life, for someone who'd betrayed her so completely? I started crying. Couldn't help it. The reality of it hitting me. She was going to say no. I was going to die. And there was nothing I could do about it. But then something shifted. She told me something I didn't know. Said that after I'd destroyed her marriage, she'd gone to therapy, spent a year processing the trauma, the betrayal, the humiliation. And her therapist had asked her one question that changed everything. Who did she want to be? Did she want to be the person defined by what was done to her? Or did she want to be the person who chose who she became despite it? Riley chose the latter. Moved to Minneapolis. Started over. Met Silas. Built something real. Had children. Created the life she'd always wanted. Not despite me, but without me. She didn't need me or my apology or my regret to be happy. And that realization, she said, was freeing. She didn't hate me anymore. She pitied me. Because while she'd grown and healed and moved forward, I'd stayed stuck. Stuck in the same patterns, the same destructive choices, the same inability to see past my own wants. Then she said the thing that broke me. She said she could save my life. But I had to save my soul. I had to actually change. Actually become someone different. Someone better. Someone worth saving. And I realized in that moment that I didn't know if I could. Didn't know if I even knew how. Riley left Stillwater without giving an answer. Said she needed time to think. To talk to her husband. To process everything. Said she'd let us know in a few days. Those few days felt like years. Every hour wondering if she'd changed her mind. If she'd decided I wasn't worth it. That my life wasn't worth risking hers. My parents were hopeful. Said Riley was a good person. That she'd come through. That she wouldn't let me die. But I knew Riley better than they did. Knew that she didn't owe me anything. That if anything, letting me face the consequences of my actions was probably the healthiest thing she could do. I spent those days thinking about my life. About the choices I'd made. About who I'd become. And I didn't like what I saw. A woman who took what didn't belong to her. Who justified betrayal because she felt entitled. Who hurt people and called it bad luck when it came back around. I called Jonah. First time in 2 years. Asked him if he ever felt guilty about what we did to Riley. He said sure sometimes. But mostly he'd moved on. Said life's too short for regret. That we'd all made choices and now we lived with them. That answer told me everything I needed to know. He hadn't changed. Still the same selfish person who'd cheated on his wife with her sister. Still incapable of real accountability. And I'd been just like him. The call came on a Saturday. Riley had made her decision. She'd come back to Stillwater. Meet with the transplant team. Go through with the donation. Under one condition. I had to hear her out. Had to listen to everything she wanted to say. Every bit of pain I'd caused. Every consequence of my actions. And I had to acknowledge it. All of it. Without defending myself. Without making excuses. Without playing victim, I agreed. Obviously. What choice did I have? She was saving my life. The least I could do was hear how I'd destroyed hers. She came back the following week. This time she stayed at our parents' house. In her old room. Like she'd never left. Except everything had changed. She'd changed. And finally, so had I. Or at least I wanted to. We sat in the living room. Our parents gave us privacy. Riley spoke for an hour. Told me everything. How the betrayal had shattered her sense of reality. How she'd questioned everything about herself. Her worth. Her judgment. Her ability to trust. How she'd had to rebuild her entire identity from scratch. How the worst part wasn't even the affair itself. It was the cruelty after. The Facebook posts. The fake text messages. The wedding invitation. Like I'd been proud of stealing her husband. Like I'd wanted to rub it in. She was right. I had been proud. Hadn't seen it as stealing. Had seen it as winning, and listening to her, finally truly listening, I realized what I'd won was nothing. And what I'd destroyed was everything. You think you know how this ends. You don't. What happened in that hospital? It's not what anyone expected. Not even me. Riley came back to Stillwater 3 weeks later. The transplant team had scheduled everything. Pre-op appointments, surgery date. I actually started believing I'd survive. The night before our final consultation, Riley came to visit me in the hospital. I'd been admitted because my condition worsened. Fluid in my lungs. Heart issues. Doctors said without a transplant within weeks, I wouldn't see the end of the year. We talked. Really talked for the first time in 6 years. I apologized. No excuses this time. No justifications. Just pure apology for everything I'd done. The affair. The cruelty. The destruction. Riley listened quietly. When I finished, she took my hand. Said she'd spent 6 years processing this. 6 years rebuilding herself. 6 years learning who she was without me and Jonah and the betrayal. Then she said the words that destroyed me. I forgive you, Ivy. I do. But I'm not giving you my kidney. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what I was hearing. She continued. I wanted you to feel what forgiveness was like. Real forgiveness. The kind you never showed me. I needed you to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean consequences disappear. It means I'm at peace with letting them happen. I begged. Actually begged. Reminded her we were sisters. That I was dying. That I'd changed. She stood up. You're right. You're dying. And I could save you. But I'm choosing not to. Because you made choices 6 years ago that destroyed my life. This is the consequence. And I'm finally okay with that. Riley, please. I have 2 sons at home, Ivy. A husband who's faithful. A life I built from nothing after you burned mine down. I'm not risking my health, my ability to be there for my children, for the sister who slept with my husband in my bed. I'm just not. She walked to the door, stopped. I hope you find a donor. I genuinely do. I hope someone else can save you. But it won't be me. Then she left. I never saw her again. My mother ran after her. Came back sobbing. Started to blame Riley. And for the first time in my life, I stopped her. Told her this was my fault. All of it. That Riley was right. That I'd created this mess and now I was facing the consequences. My father said nothing. Just like always. But this time I understood why. That was 3 months ago. Riley went back to Minneapolis. Back to her perfect life with Silas and their boys. And I'm still here. Still in Stillwater. Still dying. I'm on the transplant list. Average wait time is 3 to 5 years. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months. Maybe less if complications come. Every dialysis session gets harder. Every day I wake up a little weaker. I'm recording this between dialysis sessions. My hands shake now. Vision blurs. I don't know how many more times I'll be strong enough to speak. Maybe my confession stops someone from destroying their sister's marriage. Maybe it makes someone think twice before taking what isn't theirs. Maybe it proves that karma is real and consequences don't care if you're sorry. Riley was right to say no. I know that now. She doesn't owe me her kidney. Doesn't owe me forgiveness. Doesn't owe me anything. I made my choices. I betrayed her in the worst possible way. And now I'm paying for it. That's justice. That's karma. That's what happens when you destroy someone who loved you. If you've made it this far, thank you. For listening to a dying woman's confession. For maybe understanding that some betrayals can't be fixed with apologies. Do you believe Riley made the right choice? Subscribe if you think sometimes the only real justice is facing consequences. Because I'm learning that lesson right now, one failing organ at a time.